Hi kids, I have a book called James Harriot's Treasury for Children. And I'm going to read you a story out of that. The name of the story is Moses the Kitten. Well, look at this picture with all the sheep. There have been times in the winter when I have regretted being a vet, and this looked like one of them. I had driven about 10 miles from home, thinking all the time that the dales always looked their coldest, not when they were covered with snow. But as now, when the first sprinkling streaked the bare flanks of the fells in bars of black and white, like the ribs of a crouching beast, and now in front of me was a farm gate, rattling as it on its hinges in the wind. You see that right there? He's at the farm gate. The car, heaterless and draughty as it was, I'm going to take this little outer jacket off so it's easier to read for you. So let me start over on that page. I'll show you the picture first. The car, heaterless and draughty as it was, seemed like a haven in an uncharitable world, and I gripped the wheel tightly with my woolen gloved hands for a few moments before opening the door. The wind almost tore the handle from my fingers as I got out, but I managed to crash the door shut before stumbling over the frozen mud to the gate. Muffled as I was in heavy coat and scarf pulled up to my ears, I could feel the icy gusts biting at my face, whipping up my nose and hammering painfully into the air spaces in my head. I had driven through and, streaming-eyed, was about to get back into the car when I noticed something unusual. There was a frozen pond just off the path, and among the rime-covered rushes, which fringed the dead opacity of the surface, a small object stood out, shiny black. I think he's going to tell us. I went over and looked closer. It was a tiny kitten, probably about 6 weeks old, huddled and immobile, eyes tightly closed. Bending down, I poked gently at the furry body. It must be dead. A morsel like this couldn't possibly survive in such cold. But no, there was a spark of life because the mouth opened, and soundlessly for a second, then it closed. Quickly, I lifted the little creature and tucked it inside my coat. As I drove into the farmyard, I called to the farmer, who was carrying 2 buckets out of the calf house. "I've got one of your kittens here, Mr. Butler. It must have strayed outside." Mr. Butler put down his buckets and looked blank. "Kitten? We haven't got no kittens at present." He's got the kitten in his coat. Mr. Butler put his buckets down. I showed him my find and he looked more puzzled. "Well, that's a rum 'un. There's no black cats on this spot. We've all sorts of colors, but no black 'uns." "Well, he must have come from somewhere else," I said, "though I can't imagine anything so small traveling very far. It's rather mysterious." Oh, look here. It's the farm and the animals and the dog and the tractor, and there's that little kitten. I held the kitten out and he engulfed it with his big work-roughened hands. "Poor little beggar. He's only just alive. I'll take him into the house and see if the missus can do out for him." Oh, look at their house. It looks warm and inviting. In the farm kitchen, Mrs. Butler was all concern. "Oh, what a shame." She smoothed back the bedraggled hair with one finger. "And it's got such a pretty face." She looked up at me. "What is it anyway, a him or a her?" I took a quick look behind the hind legs. "It's a Tom." "Right," she said. "I'll get some more milk into him. But first of all, we'll give him the old cure." She went over to the fireside oven on the big black kitchen range, opened the door, and popped him inside. I smiled. It was the classical procedure when newborn lambs were found suffering from cold and exposure. Into the oven they went, and the results were often dramatic. But Mrs. Butler left the door partly open, and I could just see the little black figure inside. He didn't seem to care much what was happening to him. There's another look at her kitchen. Oh, and here we are in the barns, the cows and the cat. Looks like they might be getting ready to milk. The next hour, there's the kitten, I spent in the byre wrestling with the hind feet of a cow. The cleats were overgrown and grossly misshapen and upturned, causing the animal to hobble along on her heels. So see, he wasn't going to milk the cow, he was going to fix her hooves. My job was to pare and hack away the excess horn, and my long-held opinion that the hind feet of a cow were never meant to be handled by man was thoroughly confirmed. We had a rope around the hock and the leg pulled up over a beam in the roof, but the legs still pistoned back and forth while I hung on till my teeth rattled. By the time I had finished, the sweat was running into my eyes, and I had quite forgotten the cold day outside. There's the cow. Still, I thought, as I eased the kinks from my spine, when I had finished, there were compensations. There was a satisfaction in the sight of the cow standing comfortably on two almost normal-looking feet. Well, that's summat like, Mr. Butler grunted. Come in the house and wash your hands. She's in the kitchen again, and she's got that kitten in her hand. Looks like she was going to make maybe apple pie. In the kitchen, as I bent over the brown earthenware sink, I kept glancing across at the oven. Mrs. Butler laughed. Oh, he's still with us. Come and have a look. It was difficult to see the kitten in the dark interior, but when I spotted him, I put out my hand and touched him, and he turned his head towards me. He's coming around, I said. That hour in there has worked wonders. Doesn't often fail. The farmer's wife lifted him out. I think he's a little toughened. She began to spoon warm milk into the tiny mouth. I reckon we'll have him lapping in a day or two. You're going to keep him then? Too true we are. I'm going to call him Moses. Moses? Hey, you found him among the rushes, didn't you? I laughed. That's right. It's a good name. Tractor. A couple more kittens. I was on the Butler farm about a fortnight later, and I kept looking around for Moses. Farmers rarely have their cats indoors, and I thought that if the black kitten had survived, he would have joined the feline colony around the buildings. Farm cats have a pretty good time. They may not be petted or cosseted, but it has always seemed to me that they lead a free, natural life. They are expected to catch mice, but if they are not so inclined, there is abundant food at hand. Bowls of milk here and there, and the dogs' dishes to be raided if anything interesting is left over. There's some cats. I had seen plenty of cats around today, some flitting nervously away, others friendly and purring. There was a tabby loping gracefully across the cobbles, and a big tortoise shell was curled on a bed of straw at the warm end of the briar. Cats are connoisseurs of comfort. Look at this one. When Mr. Butler went to fetch some hot water, I had a quick look at the bullock house, and a white Tom regarded me placidly from between the bars of a hay rack where he had been taking a siesta. But there was no sign of Moses. There's some more cows in the barn. Looks like they're still looking around. I finished drying my arms and was about to make a casual reference to the kitten when Mr. Butler handed me my jacket. Come around here with me if you've got a minute, he said. I've got something I want to show you. I followed him through the door at the end and across a passage into the long, low-roofed piggery. He stopped at a pen about halfway down and pointed inside. Look 'ere, he said. I leaned over the wall, and my face must have shown my astonishment because the farmer burst into a shout of laughter. That's something new for you, isn't it? What do you suppose it is that was new to him? Oh, look, And what's in the middle of the piggies right there? Oh boy, looks like that mama pig is taking him right in. I stared unbelievably down at the large sow stretched comfortably on her side, suckling a litter of about 12 piglets, and right in the middle of the long pink row, furry, black, and incorrigious, was Moses. He had a teat in his mouth and was absorbing his nourishment with the same rapt enjoyment as his smooth-skinned fellows on either side. What the devil, I gasped. Mr. Butler was still laughing. I thought you'd never have seen anything like that before. I never had, and I never have any road. Look at that little kitty with the pigs. But how did it happen? I still couldn't drag my eyes away. It was the missus' idea, he replied. When she'd got the little youth lapping milk, she took him out to find a right warm spot for him in the buildings. She settled on this pen because the sow, Bertha, had just had a litter, and I had a heater, and it was grand and cozy. I nodded. Sounds just right. Well, she put Moses in a bowl of milk in here, the farmer went on, but the little feller didn't stay by the heater very long. Next time I looked in, he was round at the milk bar. I shrugged my shoulders. They say you see something new every day at this game, but this is something I've never even heard of. Another picture of the cats. Anyway, he looks well on it. Does he actually live on the sow's milk, or does he still drink from his bowl? A bit of both, I reckon. It's hard to say. Anyway, whatever mixture Moses was getting, he grew rapidly into a sleek, handsome animal with an unusually high gloss to his coat, which may or may not have been due to the porcine element of his diet. See, there he is. Oh, there he is still with the piglets. And look over here. I never went to the Butlers without having a look in the pig pen. Bertha, his foster mother, seemed to find nothing unusual in this hairy intruder and pushed him around casually with pleased grunts, just as she did with the rest of her brood. Moses, for his part, appeared to find the society of the pigs very congenial. When the piglets curled up together and settled down for a sleep, Moses would be somewhere in the heap, and when his young colleagues were weaned at 8 weeks, he showed his attachment to Bertha by spending most of his time with her. And it stayed that way over the years. Often he would be right inside the pen, rubbing himself happily along the comforting bulk of the sow. But I remember him best in his favorite place, crouching on the wall, looking down perhaps meditatively on what had been his first warm home. So there's a little story about how animals take care of each other sometimes. That would be a fun thing to see. Have a great day.